Thou shalt not steal. Well, I'm afraid I'm guilty for that. I stole a part of Father Tim Kelly's this morning when I was looking at, he sent me an email of his homily. And he sent me, of course he said, you know, take a look at it and see what you think. Well, I saw it as better than part of mine, so I said I'd use part of his. So Tim, if you're listening and if you hear me, I thank you very much. He opens his homily, by the way, with a joke. So listen to it very carefully. A mafia boss, or monster, he puts down, mobster died, and his brother went to the priest. And he said, I will give you 200,000 if during the funeral you would say, my brother is a saint. Now the priest, the pastor of a small poor parish, like this one, was not going to patch up the opportunity of getting a little extra money to pay off his debt. Read the gospel and walked down beside the casket, placed his hand upon it, and said, this man robbed millions, defrauded the government, never paid his taxes. Then he looked over to the widow and he said, he cheated on you many times. And had a mistress pointing at the blonde bombshell sitting in the pew in front of him. He was a fraud, a cheat, a drug dealer, and I cannot think of any other crime that he has not committed. Then he turned with a sweeping motion towards his brother and said, when you compare him to you, he was a saint. I thought that was a kind of an apt joke. In a way that, of course, when we were, as we have went through the whole series, and we have been giving a kind of a Bible series over the last few weeks, we've been listening of the idea of how it is that we are to be in relation with God. We spoke about the I thou, the I man, the two becoming one flesh. And then when we come to this gospel, of course, we're hearing about the Beatitudes. How do we become that person? How do we become in that relationship with God? In a sense, I suppose, when we look at the idea, and of course the day that we are celebrating, we celebrate the saints. We celebrate these wonderful people that we've all heard about and read about in the lives, Butler's The Lives of the Saints. I don't know if any of you remember that book. Most of us probably have it sitting on a shelf somewhere in our house. But in it has a little paragraph of every saint that could possibly think of, that you could possibly utter a stick at, as Jack Allen, you would find in that book. Even many that you would say to yourself, I didn't even know what to say. But if you look deeper into those particular areas, their lives were not as pure as sometimes we would like to think. Just like our mobster, in a way. His life was not a pure life. Had he the opportunity to become a saint, he should have taken it. In a real sense, that's what we're trying to do. In our lives and in our way and in our beings, that's what we're after. We're after sainthood. In other words, being with Christ. That's what we're after. That relationship, that coming together with Jesus Christ in such a way that we become more than what we are in our lives. That's not easy, by the way. Being a saint is not an easy thing. It's contradictory to the way we live in this world today. And matter of fact, it's very contradictory. It's getting more and more further apart of the idea of living life in our world today. So you are even being called to a stronger witness to Christ. And that's probably one of the things that this mobster lost in a way. He lost his understanding along the way. But when it came to his death, he wanted to be called a saint. And of course I look at this particular little joke and I say, it's funny. But then when I read one of my favorite saints, who is St. Augustine. St. Augustine was a young man who did not do much like what this mobster was doing in a way. He did everything that could possibly go wrong, and if he didn't find a sin, he invented one to do it. After he had met with Bishop Ambrose, who explained to him the idea of God's love for him, he changed his life. I don't know if any of you have read the Confessions of St. Augustine, but it's a good book actually to read sometimes. Why? Because it explains to us that the human person is full of frailties. We fall, we sin, we don't do things right, but there is always a great sense of hope and also that sense of belonging once we find our goal. What is our goal? Our goal is to be a saint. Our goal is to be with Jesus Christ at the end of the day. That's the goal. No matter how we try to do it, we have to do it. That's why we're here. And we get strengthened. We are given the tools. If you listen to today's gospel, today's gospel is a list of tools, basically, on how to become a saint. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness. In other words, blessed are those who stand up for their faith and who are actually willing to die for their faith. I know that's not an easy thing to ask of anyone. Would someone come in and put a gun to my head and said, Father, do you believe in Jesus Christ? I would say, yes, no problem. Even if it meant to die. There's many Christians today doing that for us. They stand before their people who are going to kill them. And they believe in Jesus Christ. They're martyrs. They become saints. No matter what they have done in the past, they could be the most rottenest group of people you could find. But they stand up and they stand up for their faith and they give their lives for their faith. God will bless them through martyrdom. That's what we're celebrating in a way here today. Many of the saints that we have are martyrs who have died for their faith. But there's also those who have not died, who have lived lives exemplary in the understanding of God's love. The patron of this particular church, St. Francis. He wasn't a fluffy bunny, by the way. You know, we put pictures up with him, you know, having a nice dog beside him, or a wolf, and the wolf yields to him, and the birds yield to him. And this is a nice, fluffy picture. Francis was not a nice, fluffy individual, by the way. If you read his life and understood what he was doing, he was not. I would not like to get into a row with him, let me tell you that. He would beat me so hard I don't know where I'd be going afterwards. But these were people who gave a witness to their faith. And through the Beatitudes, I mean, we have been looking at all these things coming up to it. He's talking about a relationship with Christ. You want to figure out how is that relationship given to you. Here is that result. Here is, in this gospel, that idea You live according to that particular beatitude, and you will be a saint. It starts out quite easy. It ends up quite hard at the bottom of the line, you know, where you have to stand up for your faith. Most of us, I'm afraid, are in that kind of little woofy little bit, you know, where I'm a Catholic, but that's as far as I am. I don't stand up for my faith. I'm afraid to stand up for my faith. Why? Because if I say something, I may not be able to refute another person. What do I do if someone comes and says to me, what do you know about the Eucharist? You're a Catholic, you go to Mass every Sunday, you receive the Eucharist, and you say to you, what do you know about it? How do you know it's true? Can you give an answer? They might be your good friend. You might give them an answer, and they may actually walk away from you and say, I want nothing more to do with you. That's a hard thing to do. That's what we have to do, of course. And so today, let us pray that we may be able to be like a saint in our witness of faith. And to be able to invite others to come to it, knowing that our faith is indeed a strong faith. A faith with love. A faith with understanding. And a true goal to receive sainthood at the end of our lives. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. The justice of God shall be theirs. Amen. Truly I say to you, gather in my name, I am with you. Blessed are the merciful, mercy shall be shown unto them. Blessed are the pure of heart, they shall behold their God. Blessed are those who bring peace, they shall be children of God. Blessed are those who suffer in the cause of right, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Amen. Truly I say to